Barry, it's great to see you again. Thanks for joining me. One of the things that you and I have talked about in the past is how cloud is kind of the foundation for the modernization effort that you're undertaking at CIA. How so, and what are the building blocks then that you're building on top of that in your modernization journey?
That's great. Thanks for having me here again. Yeah, so in my mind, cloud is the foundation for digital evolution of what we're trying to do both at CIA, but in the intelligence community itself. So we've been on this journey in cloud since 2013, working with our one provider at the time, and we've sort of built that layered foundation, I think, initially. But as we awarded our commercial cloud enterprise contract back in 2020, we've now moved into this multi-cloud, view. So what does that really mean? For us, it's, you're building the foundation of just, commodity, compute, storage, everything. But to me, the power is, what are we layering on top of that? So as we move to managed services, or as we're looking to bring AI in to the community, how are we going to do that, right? So we've been really great in working with our cloud service providers to get the latest of those technologies into our classified domains. And we've seen that already. We are already leveraging commercial LLMs in these environments, but there's more. All right, so when we look at bringing those capabilities in, and we heard from our previous speaker, how do we look at everything globally, right? So we are, in the intelligence community, a global organization, right? So how do I look at leveraging our architectures globally? And what do I mean by that? So we can have things that are local and have these big regions, but how do I get to the edge, right? How do I start using compute, storage, analytics at the edge, but in real time and cost efficient? How can I do that up in the sky, right? So how do I start looking in space and the things that we can deploy in space that, whether from an AI perspective or something else, that allows us to work quicker and faster? And then what's everything in between? So are data centers going away? No. I believe there's a purpose for data centers, especially as we look at hybrid models, or if we have very sensitive data, do they stay in the data centers and I bring the AI to my data center? So to me, yes, we've been doing cloud for 13 or more years, but we're just starting, I believe, in this whole multi-cloud arena, AI, and what is that going to look like for us? And that's exciting.
Rich talked about the decision-making process for determining what a multi-cloud environment looks like. What did that process look like at CIA?
So for us, we're just starting. So one of the first things we had to do was bring our cloud service providers in and what we label as operationalize. So an organization within CIA called CloudWorks, right? They're responsible for bringing these CSPs on and accrediting them, right? To make sure that they can be used in our classified domains, but then giving the agency access to those clouds to be able to just set up billing, how are we networked into them. So now we have that going, right? So at CIA itself, now we're starting to have those conversations of what makes sense. I think initially we were all about multiple clouds versus multi-cloud. So what's the difference?
Yep.
Multiple cloud is that I'm built one system dedicated in one cloud and another system dedicated in a different cloud. When I think of multi-cloud, it's one system leveraging multiple clouds at the same time. I'll give you an example. Translation. We do a lot of work in regards to bringing in collections that we have to translate. But I might have one CSP that is great in translating one language and another CSP great in translating a different one. So I want to be able to access all of them, right, at the same time. So to me, that's multi-cloud. But as we start beginning our journey, there's so many cool things that each of these CSPs are bringing to the table. You have, Amazon, who's been with us, since day one, and leveraging their modern tech that they keep bringing in, to Oracle, which is purpose-built for AI and big data solutions, to Microsoft with M365 and perfect integration into Azure, to Google that's bringing in their distributed hosting solution, right, that allows us to maybe bring the cloud inside our data centers a little bit better. So there's so many different things, but I think the challenge for our community is going to be which one.
Right.
right? So CloudWorks itself, and through other of the cloud program offices within the community, that's going to be part of that job, right? Is helping to triage missions need and trying to determine what would be the best solution that's out there for them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to go next, is what that evaluation process looks like and how much of that is done on your side of the fence and how much of that is done on the industry side of the fence, coming to you and saying, we know you need to do X, Y, and Z, and here's how we can facilitate that.
No, so to me, there's like a perfect triangle of how this should work. You have your mission partner that has the need or the requirement of what they're trying to do. And then in the old days, I'd have my vendor support, right? My integrators, right? Around the community that are experts in these types of things. But to me, the other part of the triangle are actually the cloud service providers. I think before, the old paradigm was mission need, let me go to the integrator, then the integrator will figure out the technical solution and go from there. I think that needs to change. I think it's a partnership between all three now, because a lot of the expertise is actually going to our cloud service providers and they understand their technology better than anybody else. So to me, we need to bring all three together. We have a contract within CloudWorks called SIM, which is really trying to provide that unbiased front door to understanding architectural needs, right? So which would be the right solution for mission partners. But I'll be honest, we need our community and eventually our community of integrators to come and help us with this. So get smart on all the options and solutions that are out there, not just AWS, I would say. Start to learn everything and then come to us. Our mission challenges and our needs. So the more that we can see what's the art of the possible? I think that's a big conversation I have a lot, where people are like, well, we'll wait for mission to tell us what we need. And I'm like, mission sometimes doesn't know what they need. We need great ideas to come to us and see how we can leverage these environments, because then they'll be like, oh, wait, that is a better way on how I can do this. It's more efficient. It's faster. It's giving me more capabilities. So I think there's balance on both sides of that.
One of the things that you're doing at CIA that I think is fascinating is you've built a generative AI tool that works on CIA data only. And that's the step that you've taken in this digital evolution that we talked about. If we have time, I want to come back to that term. But what did you have to do to lay the groundwork for that from a platform perspective to give the team that put that together the tools that they needed to put it together and keep it secure?
Yeah. I talk about two different things. One, we have one tool that we started initially in our open source enterprise. So open source enterprise focuses on just publicly available information and data. And so they built a wonderful tool because they can actually work in the commercial cloud environment. So I've always looked at them as the trailblazers because they can go in and look at this technology before we are actually leveraging it on our classified domains. So learning exactly what they did, was a first step. But the second step, what did we do to bring capabilities in? So first, we had that foundation of bringing in our service providers, but then we worked really closely with a partnership with our Office of Artificial Intelligence at the agency. And then we worked closely with our cloud service providers to really push on them to say, hey, we want those latest technologies that you are bringing in. And so we were able, in under 5 months, go from a requirement ask to bringing this capability in. And we asked about securing it. So the job of CloudWorks is to do a government assessment for controls on these capabilities. So looking at the service and saying, does it meet all the standard cybersecurity controls that we need to do in this environment? We're able to do that, right? And so then we were able to layer, the LLMs into our system and then be able to access our data. So right now, I'd say we're in our nascent stage of figuring this out. To me, and you and I talked about this previously, LLMs are great, but what I believe that we're going to be leveraging in our environment are SLMs, small language models, because we're going to have bespoke data sets, whether that's imagery or maybe that's SIGINT or something else, where your traditional commercial LLMs are not handling that. But I want to be able to train and then have inference, calls out to this like bespoke data set. So we're still working through a lot of that, but a lot of that is on our roadmap.
Larry, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.